you so much for joining us for Adventure. My name is Janie and I lead the community team here at Outschool. So this is a session that I'm very excited to share with you today. But if there's something that I learned is that the best thing to do in any situation is to tap an expert. So it's not actually going to be just me talking. I have a friend. I phoned a friend today, and I'm so thrilled to introduce her. It's Miss Judy Mills, homeschool parent and educator, so she knows this game inside and out. I'm going to let her introduce herself now. Judy, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. So, as you know, my name is Judy Mills. So I am a homeschool mom. I have 2 teenage boys, graduated one last year.
Congratulations.
One more to graduate, but it's going so fast. I'm also an Outschool educator, and I also mentor other teachers, and also on dyslexic, dysgraphic, neurodiverse learners. And I also teach in my state as well in some co-ops.
That is quite the resume. We're in good hands today. I'm so happy that you could join us. Yeah. Today, we have a packed agenda. We are going to dive deep into transcripts. And we're going to talk about the parts of a transcript and how you can make a transcript, how testing can help you make your transcript more buildable. And we are going to leave time to talk about accommodations and a Q&A. So let's dive in so that we have plenty of time for Q&A. Go ahead and leave your comments in the chat. We won't be able to monitor for questions while the bulk of the presentation is happening. That's why we wanted to get started on time so that we can leave plenty of time for Q&A. So if we don't get to your question live, we definitely will get to it by the end of the session. So that's enough introductions. Let's dive in for what you came here. We're going to talk about transcripts. And I think the first thing that we want to do is go over like some words, right? Some terms to know so we're all speaking the same language. Before we get into that, I want to kind of frame the conversation about what we're doing this for and why we need transcripts. Judy, why does a homeschool parent need a transcript?
So you don't actually need a transcript, but it's going to help with applying for college, right? If you're going to the military, a trade school, and just making sure that you have something for that entry-level job. So if for some reason you're not going on to college, you want to have that transcript, especially if it's been more than 2 years since graduation happened. So you want to make sure you have that on hand.
And I understand, for our friends who take a gap year, or there's another reason why they decide not to go to college. Over time, the grades themselves become less important. It's more about completion and proving that you did graduate high school. Is that accurate in your experience?
Yes. So just making sure that you have something on paper to show that you did complete, high school, and you have that, for going to future employers. And, and if you did decide, later on, maybe you wanted to go to a trade school or, college as well.
Okay. Thank you for framing that, because we're definitely not one size fits all around here. So we want to make sure that we were being clear about what the intention was before getting into the terms. And the first term that we need to know is the Common Application. Judy, what do you have to say about the Common App?
Okay, this is wonderful. Okay, so the Common Application is a fabulous way that students can apply to over 1,000 schools, and it's slowly growing, and these are around the world. So you can simply put all of your information in one app, so one application. You will create what they call a counselor account, so you'll kind of be like the guidance counselor at the traditional school. And then you'll be able to load all of your information in there. And the greatest thing, your student will only have to complete one essay. So they only have to write one essay, and then it goes out to whatever schools that you would like to apply to. So it kind of makes that process a little bit simplistic. Some of the things, though, don't typically apply to homeschoolers, but there's always modifications and ways around how to answer the questions when you're filling that out. but it's wonderful.
And they do try to be inclusive, right? My understanding is that there is often a homeschool supplement that you can use. Is that correct?
Yes. So there's a homeschool supplement like documentation that you would fill out. So you're able to show all those unique talents and unique gifts that your student has or your child has, because we know that homeschoolers definitely are out of the box thinkers, and we always have wonderful talents, those kids.
Donna said she's never heard of this. I'm so glad that we're bringing this to you. My understanding is that even Harvard is active on the Common App. So definitely check that one out.
Yes.
There's a lot of schools there. The next term that we want to review, we're talking about the parts of a transcript, is credit. How would you describe credit, Judy?
So when we talk about credits, okay, so this is how the course is going to be measured whenever you have that completion. So making sure that those requirements were met. So I'm not sure if you can see on my little example over there off to the side. So you can see there's PA History and Literature, for example. So this student has an A+, and you can see it was a 1-credit course. So this will all be kind of determined by your state. So I would encourage you, and I'm sure you already have looked into those requirements and guidelines for your state. And then those credits and hours, you know, the amount of hours that they need to receive that 1 credit.
Perfect. So moving right along, let's talk about scales. What do numbers have to do with all of this?
Oh, numbers, my favorite. Okay, I'm going to admit I am not the math person. So I love any site that can calculate everything for me. So I am all about that. So the grading scale. So I have 2 examples here. If you look up at the top one, you could see that 100% and going across it. So the student has an A+ for the standard points for that course is 4. An honors course would be 4.5. And then the AP course, which we'll be talking about shortly, is 5 points. And then the one on the bottom, the little example on the bottom. So it's a little bit different. So it's calculated like a little bit tighter scale. So like 97 to 100%, you can get that 4.33. So more decimals.
So we have options, right? It doesn't have to be one single scale that's right, because some people even use completion, right? Pass or did not pass, completed or didn't complete. And there's room for those different types of scales on here.
Yeah, so the scale is like however you would like to create it, or determined by, you know, if it is an AP course or an honors course, you would want those to be, you know, rated a little bit higher for your student, you know, just to show that they're really striving for, you know, to go above and beyond. Not that homeschoolers are not always striving to go above and beyond, but just, you know, coming up with a scale that fits you and your family.
Okay, you're hinting at it. So let's talk about GPA and weight. They're kind of at the periphery of what you just said. What is a GPA and how does weight affect it? Okay,
so GPA, that's that measure of performance. So I have that little example on the very bottom down there, which is for the 9th grade, you know, 9th grade year. So thinking of the GPA, so you're going to be calculating all of those credits. Okay, and there's a little formula there. I'm not going to work this out because I'd be plugging it in to the online program that just calculates everything. Makes it very simplistic, and there are so many resources out there just to dump all of that in. But there is the formula there. So you have that sum of, you have that grade on the grading scale. So if you're looking at my arrow on the example, I have biology with a lab, and this was an honors course. So this student got an A. You can see that the credits are rated a little higher, right? So 1.5. So you'd be adding up all of those credits, and then according to the grading scale, and then you're going to divide it by the total units or credits possible. I know it sounds complicated. Just saying all of that, my heart beat too fast.
But there's calculators out. This is very Googleable.
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely.
We want you to know how it works, because now you know that the harder or more intensive the class, the more important that grade will be on the GPA. But you don't have to know this by heart. There's calculators out there for this.
Yes, definitely. And the weighted and unweighted. So the unweighted is going to be an average out of 4.0. Okay. So we've all heard of like my student got a 4.0, GPA. The weighted is going to be reflected with those grades and then it being a higher level course. So for example, that honors course, or maybe your student has taken college courses in 9th and 10th grade, because many have, and many do that. And also the AP and different tests, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Okay, that was the perfect segue. How can high school students get college credit while still being in high school? What is AP and CLEP?
Okay, so AP stands for that advanced placement class. So this is on the collegeboard.org's website. You'll be very familiar with this. Probably like dreaming about it in your school if you're filling applications out for college. So collegeboard.org has advanced placement classes. So say a student's taking biology in high school, they can take the advanced placement or AP test for biology. So there's all kinds of information on the College Board's website regarding like study guides and little practice tests. But they can receive a high school credit and then also college credit as well.
That sounds like it could help, homeschool families that are on a budget really get a lot of bang for their buck as they're planning to pay for college.
Yes, definitely. So definitely the AP tests can help. You can kind of accumulate those credits. And since they've already taken, maybe they've taken biology or whatever class, chemistry or algebra 1, whatever they're taking, in your homeschool, why not try and see if they want to take a test for a couple of them to see if they can, get those college credits as well. The CLEP, on the other hand, so this is the college level exam program. You'll also find this on collegeboard.org. So this is in like specific subjects. And the students can also take these after completion. So let's say they took biology once again, and they decided they're going to take a CLEP exam. So there are study guides, there are practice tests, and it is much less than a typical 4 credits, right? Biology would be 4 credits,
right,
for a college course, much less financially. And the students, depending on the grade they get, that will determine whether or not, they get that credit. Also to mention though, check with the colleges because some of them have limited certain CLEP exams that they will accept. So you don't want to be like taking the test and then the college you applied to, sorry, they don't accept that one. Most of them do, but they will have that all on their websites. Okay,
homeschool parents, you're not going to get away from planning this one. I'm sure you all are very used to planning, and that's the name of the game here. I feel like we're on the same page now. We have the basics down. Let's get into how we should start building our transcript. I already kind of gave away the pod a little bit with the planning note. But before we get into that, let's talk about the anatomy of a transcript. What goes into a transcript itself?
Okay, so you can see here, the biggest thing is checking with your state, making sure that you're following those requirements. Especially, if they're, for graduation requirements. So you want to have some type of homeschool name. So for example, maybe I would call mine Mills Academy. Okay. So whatever you want to name your school, student's name, email address, phone number, birth date. You don't want to include social security number just because of identity theft, right? So all the identity theft issues that would go along with that. Graduation date or expected graduation date. So we'll talk a little bit about this coming up. And then of course the GPA. The body of the transcript is going to have the dates. So 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, however you want to have that, mapped out. And then you want to have the years, those class names, the grade, how it was weighted, right? How you weighted it. So maybe it was 1.5 credits and all those calculations that will get dumped right in there.
So these are the components that should be on there. There's flexibility in how you can set those up, but the important part is to disclose them and to document them on the transcript.
Yes, definitely.
Let's see if we have an example to illustrate. Show is better than tell. Let's go with this template that you made for us.
So this is just a general template. So you can see name, address, birth date, sex. You don't necessarily put the sex, but so this is just general information. Date of graduation, and then you could even have that expected graduation on there if you wanted. Credits earned, and then their GPA. I have it broken down into like 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Specifically, I want to take a look at that 12th grade, because notice how I have like first semester, second semester, final grade, and we're thinking, oh my goodness, like this is like way too much stuff to try and track 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Sometimes it's good just to have this for 12th grade, because if your student has applied or is applying for college, so the first semester grades, you probably are going to have those and you can fill those in. This kind of gives the admissions officer or team a little bit of a snapshot, like, okay, they're still hanging in there in 12th grade, right? They're still doing, these are their first semester grades. But you don't necessarily have to have first semester, second semester for 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. But I placed it on here just in case.
That's a great tip. Thank you. So a little bit more detail in 12th year could help us make it through the application process itself.
Yes, because you're not going to be finished, right? You're not going to be graduated and have the second semester in your final grade, but you can at least have that first semester in there potentially while you're waiting to hear back from, different colleges.
Fantastic.
I also want to mention that special awards section on the bottom, and I did have to cut this off. So, but special awards and activities, this is a fabulous thing to always have on your transcript. So it's going to be all of those things that your child has done. So maybe not all of them. That would be really long. But those special things that they've done. So have they won any awards? Maybe they started their own business when they were like 13 or 14. They decided they were going to start selling dog biscuits and making them. So all these different things that are very special and unique, competitions, different things, you want to put those on there. Are they working? So volunteering anywhere, those things really stand out and help, the homeschool students stand out even more.
I knew that you could submit an essay or a supplement with your college applications. I didn't know that you could put special awards right on the transcript itself. Yeah,
it's really helpful too, because the essay, obviously you're going to be doing that, but this is kind of like that quick snapshot of your child, because, they're going through so many applications, and sometimes it's like, skimming this essay and like, oh my goodness, it's, you're tired. But that snapshot with those special awards and activities on the transcript kind of lets them see like, whoa, and then pay a little bit more attention to reading your child's essay.
If I know college admissions officers, and I do, I can see how this can be an advantage. So thanks for that hot tip. But where do I start? I have the template. What do I do first?
Okay, so have to find out what your state requirements and laws are. I know I've said that like 4 or 5 times now, but you want to make sure that you have all of that, kind of like buttoned up first. Every state is going to be different. I live in one of the states that have a lot of regulations. And then some states, your student might be taking a college class, maybe in 9th or 10th grade. So they're going to get that college, those college credits, but sometimes they're not going to transfer over until they've completed their English and all their requirements for your state. Okay. So you want to make sure you're, not missing something like, we forgot to do the math that was required for 12th grade. We needed 4 years of math, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. So you want to make sure you're, following those guidelines. Also making sure, and I know everyone is like talking to their child about what are their aspirations, what do they want to do. Sometimes you don't know what to do, but there's a lot of different resources out there, like career testing sites, where you can have them just kind of like go through multiple choice questions and figure out like, well, no, I'm not the person that's picking up the hammer doing things. I'm the person that likes numbers, and you kind of place them. It'll kind of show you some different areas of careers that maybe they'd be interested in. But following their lead, because it really is key, just to, all those passions and all those interests that they have. It's just so awesome to watch them blossom.
And you can nurture those interests as you're building this. I find it very rare that a high school student will say, Mommy, I'm dying to go to college. Some of them do. But what they might be more interested in is science. And that gives you a hint that you might be looking at a school like Stanford or MIT. So they might, they're still learning, they're still figuring it out, but their interests can give you hints as to what programs to look into.
Yes, definitely.
Is it ever too late? Like,
never.
My kid is graduating tomorrow. Did I mess up?
It's never too late. I mean, it's always better to start a little bit earlier and just kind of start throwing things in that transcript. It's gonna modify and change, and you're gonna, maybe what you put in there in the beginning of the school year, like, oh, we're doing this, and then as the beauty of homeschooling, you're like, wait a minute, this is not working. We're not doing this class, or we're not going to do this. We're going to change it. So there's no reason why you can't, take something off the transcript as you're kind of going through and building that throughout the school years.
So a transcript template is not a contract. You're not binded.
No.
You can amend.
Not until graduation and it's signed off. You gotta stick with it then.
Okay, so I think I'm ready. How do I get started? What tools are out there?
Oh, there are so many tools. I know we've all like Googled, transcripts, and just endless amounts of templates out there. A lot of co-ops and charters have some really nice, reliable templates and tools. And then, of course, like if you're in a co-op or some type of charter, we have like this community of homeschoolers. So ask someone that oh, wait a minute, they just graduated someone. I need some help. I have this 7th, 8th grader or whatever. We don't necessarily label them like 7th, 8th grade, but, talk to someone. You have like this large community, and then online templates, a lot of free ones, simple ones. Try and find something that you're going to stick with, though. So you're not like, oh, I'm going to change this. And then it's making like so much stress and work for you, to continue that process.
So when we all log off this call, or if you're watching the recording, if you open another window and you start Googling, what I heard you say is there are free out. There's no need to pay. There are
there's a lot of free ones out there. Yeah, a lot of them are different blogs and different homeschool parents that have websites, and you just kind of type in Transcript Tools, and might have to throw in your email address to get the free template. But there are so many out there,
and we don't have to over engineer it. Do something that you can do.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
At the end of the day, the admissions officers, they don't want to see a messy transcript anyway. So as simple is better. If you can follow it, that's better.
Yeah. Like the more cluttered it is, it's just too much for them to try and go through. So, you want to kind of keep it, as clean as you can.
Okay. So as you're going through, those are the things that we want you to think about as you're Googling or Pinteresting or, checking in with your homeschool groups. Let's dive into testing and accommodations. We hinted at it when we were talking about AP and CLEP tests. But those aren't the only types of tests. So can we talk through all the ATs that are out there and what homeschool parents need to know about testing?
So many different tests. Okay, so let's talk about for the homeschool educators. So when we're thinking of testing, sometimes obviously that's like how we can determine like class success or completion. Okay. So there are different types of tests depending upon your state too, that you may need to complete standardized tests comparing your student to their peers, of course. One thing I want to mention are those competencies. So that third bullet point down there, competencies and like unique opportunities, because there are so many and often we don't think about these. So we think about like we need to have like these different ATs over there, SAT, PSAT, but competencies and unique opportunities. So internships, certifications, mentor programs, volunteering. So there's, for example, so say your student was into IT, computers and that. There's no reason why they can't take what are called CompTIA certifications. That would be something that someone actually working in the field would be doing. But maybe your student just devours that and learns and knows it so well. Why not have them take that CompTIA test? And then they have all these certifications, which will count as a credit too for graduation. So there's endless amounts of different opportunities depending upon what your learner is loving and diving into. Of course, we want to talk about those admission committees, right? And the employers. They're going to look at all these tests. Okay, the SAT, PSAT is the preliminary SAT, so taken in 9th, 10th, sometimes 11th grade. So all of those tests, and then of course the AP and the CLEP we talked about. So depending upon, when your student is applying to college, taking those different tests just to kind of get, like a baseline and then retaking them, because generally you're not taking them once.
So I understand I need to take tests. It's test day. What do I do? Where do I go?
Okay. collegeboard.org. Okay. They're going to have all the testing information. Okay. The beauty of COVID, part of it was most of those tests now are virtual and a lot of them are still virtual. So your student can take that exam in the comfort of their, office, where their desk, and then it'll be proctored at home. So the person proctoring it kind of has you have the camera go around, show that there's nothing that you're going to use to assist you, and it can be proctored virtually. Also, most school districts, so depending upon what school district or where you're zoned at, they can sit and take those AP exams that I talked about earlier within that, the high school, so they can take it with the other students. So when do we need to do this? When? So generally after 13, okay, so end of the junior year, spring, summer, okay. Application season usually is going to be in the fall of that senior year. So about a year and a half, can you believe it? A year and a half before they're going to attend college. Okay, so you're taking care of this and doing those tests and just giving them the opportunity to take them a couple times if they need to. So, of course, requesting accommodations. So collegeboard.org has, and all of the test sites, so like AP, CLEP, even if your student is taking certifications or competencies in an area, they all provide accommodations. They have to. So you can request accommodations for their exam time. They will have like a specific list. So maybe your student gets like a couple breaks. Maybe they need a snack in between this part of the test and this part of the test. Maybe they need extended time. Maybe they need someone to read them the test or go over something with them. So you can fill that all out, and then that gets sent to collegeboard.org, and then they have like an approval process. I would start that sooner than later, because sometimes it can take a little while for them to go through that. One thing to note though, make sure you don't feel like that's all the choices they have. Okay, so let's say your student is diabetic. Okay, right. So maybe they need to like check their blood sugar, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 times during test time. Maybe they need an extra snack. Maybe there's different things that they're going to need. There's no reason why you can't request that as well. So maybe they need a stress ball to like squeeze in their hand. That's just, it's a comfort thing. Don't feel like there's anything that you can't request.
Thank you so much for saying that. And that reminds me about the need for us to encourage our kiddos to advocate for themselves. Bringing it back to the beginning of our conversation, you reminded us that parents are logging in the capacity of admissions counselors, and this is the student's application, the student's testing account. And so, of course, you want to partner with them, especially, you know, if your kid is super advanced and starting as soon as they can at age 13. But they should also be an active member of the conversation and requesting those accommodations for themselves.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Because they're the ones that know, like, well, wait, for the math portion, I need a calculator the whole time, or I need something, you know, I need this, you know, maybe they're not the number person, or maybe they just need some extended, you know, time. You know, you definitely want to sit with them and, you know, make sure that you even over accommodate them. You know, maybe they don't feel like, no, I don't need this. I don't need this. Right. But, you know, get those accommodations, because if they don't end up needing them, well, then that's fine. But they have that comfort level. It's just another added comfort level for them, you know, if they do need them.
It never hurts to have it. They can always not use it.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's the bulk of the content. But Judy, if I know you, I know you're not just going to leave it there. You're going to love on these folks. So I'm going to let you take it away, because there's things you really wanted them to know.
Okay, so college is not for everybody. All right. So this is a journey, and there are so many opportunities for our kids. Okay. So creating that transcript, but making sure it's like this little individualized book of their achievements, right? So their journey and their interests that aren't going to look typical and, you know, like a lot of their peers. Okay. So having that eclectic and really unique story, right? It's going to add a lot of interest to that educational journey. And we want it to be like their journey, right? We're kind of like going along and mentoring them and mentoring their interests. And colleges, they really love that unique homeschool transcript, because they'll see things on there that they've never seen, like, what is this? You know, sometimes they need explanation, you know, to understand. And it really makes it a fun process. It does.
Amazing. What else do you have to say?
Okay. So colleges are going to look for diversity. So culture, experience. We've talked about experience. So whether they have a job, a hobby, you know, a business of their own, just all of those unique interests that they have, their worldview, right? So their view of how things need to be done, you know, just that unique experience of homeschooling truly gives that student such an advantage. It really does. They stand
and today
out.
We learned how to make that reflective on the transcript itself. So thank you so much for bringing that forward.
Oh, you're welcome. Sure.
And lastly.
Okay. You can do this. You can. Okay. I know you can. So as soon as you get off, you're going to be like, Google, help me. No. No, just start the plan and kind of stick with it. But remember, right, we have to be flexible, because, and we are, we're not like, this is how it's going to be done. This is what we have to do. Right. So we're going to be flexible. Our kids think outside of the box. That's why we're homeschooling. Right. So, and many homeschoolers are going to outperform their peers. So just know that transcript that you build is definitely going to stand out. And the last thing, remember, this is a journey. It's not a race to the finish line, because it will be done and gone like that. And you'll look back and be like, wow, even though in the heat of it, sometimes we're like, oh my, woo. But you can do this.
You can do this, and you will do this. You're going to do this.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that wisdom with us. You definitely taught me a thing or two. Now we're going to open it up for Q&A. During this event, people cannot come off chat, but I have seen some questions that people are already populating in the chat. So I'm going to start with, I think Frederick was being a little funny, but there's some truth in here about, how would I not give my kid a 4.0 or better? Where does fairness come in, and what kind of decisions does a homeschool parent make when they're grading?
So when you're grading, I mean, you want to be fair with your student, or with your child, obviously. If they're struggling, maybe you're going to have to get some help outside, right? Because we know sometimes we can't be the teacher at certain times. We might have mentored them as they were littler, but then they're starting to become independent, which we want them to. And so adapting and shifting, but making sure that you want to give them, I guess, the grade that they've earned, right? And then adapting how you see it works for your homeschool, because it's your journey, right? So it's your journey in developing that plan and guidelines to follow.
It sounds like in that regard, homeschool educators face the same decisions that educators at a traditional school face, because if you're using a curriculum, reference the curriculum for guidance, and that sometimes involves deciding ahead of time what the unit is worth and how you'll evaluate it, and then holding yourself accountable. Because if you say that they learned it and then they get to college and they didn't learn it, they might go through the admissions process, but they're going to be the one in that college class being behind. So if it hurts in the moment, it might help them grow in the future. Sticking to that plan is going to make them better in the end.
Yeah, stretching them, definitely.
Okay. So I got a note from Melanie, a hot tip, because you mentioned the virtual tests, CLEP and AP, that you should check your internet speed requirements before trying. My understanding is that there's built-in tests, right? They make sure that you're using, the latest version of Chrome or whatever software they require, and that you can try it right on the website before committing, right?
Yeah, you have to do they'll show you the requirements, and they'll have you download certain things, and then it'll do kind of like a little virtual run, and you'll be able to tell, is there an issue? So do I need to be plugged directly into my router or my system? Maybe you have to go somewhere else if you're in a very remote area, taking that test. I don't know if maybe people do still have the plug-in telephone cord type internet. I don't know, but that's always possible. So, but you can definitely see how the speed is and how things work in a trial run type thing. Yeah, before testing.
Yeah, there is a digital divide. So I do believe that there are rural families that are in that position. But the other thing that we mentioned earlier is that if at home doesn't work, with AP specifically, the learner is eligible to take an AP exam at whatever school they would be zoned for.
Yes.
Whatever the local high school is will still accommodate their tests.
Yes.
So that's another thing to plan. Get to know that local principal so that you know when things are going to go up. All right. This is a great question from Kat. Kat wants to know if a learner needs to have a diagnosed learning difference or a medical condition in order to receive accommodations.
Yeah, they typically do, because they require you to send some kind of documentation. So let's say your child is dyslexic and dysgraphic. So you need to have some type of documentation from the psychologist or the testing center where you had them evaluated. So they'll be able to have those accommodations. Maybe already in your heart that they are having, maybe they're having this tendency towards dyslexia, dysgraphia, or whatever, learning difference that they have. But yeah, you would need that documentation, definitely, because they'll require you to upload that in that process of accommodations requests.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. That's really important. The next question is really intriguing to me from Anna. Are there any specific colleges or universities that are particularly good fit for homeschool families?
Oh, wow. There's a big list, and actually, dear Google, yes. If you Google specifically that, homeschool colleges, you can actually even Google and be very specific. Like there's specific colleges that are catered towards dyslexic, dysgraphic students. Like they have a bigger center for like assistance in that. So you definitely can look up, homeschool colleges, universities, homeschool friendly. So just kind of taking a look at those terms. But there's definitely lists out there. And then kind of take a look, because maybe when you look at that list, sometimes it's someone's opinion, obviously, and it might not sound like a good fit for you and your child. But there are lists out there, definitely.
I think what we do know is that there's 1,000 schools that are eligible for the Common App. And so those are schools that already know that, different families have different experiences. They include the supplements in there. So that's probably a good hint that they're hip to the different types of experiences that learners might have. And then, when we hear about learners that are very advanced, they're going to college early, or they've done exceptionally well on exams. Those are competitive learners who are eligible for scholarships. And so, it can be a matter of budget or a matter of staying close to home, a matter of taking it easy if they're very young and starting with community college. But I know for a fact that competitive universities are welcoming to homeschoolers, especially those advanced homeschoolers, those homeschoolers that are neurodiverse, because they're looking for diversity in their student bodies, and they're willing to put, their money where their mouth is to be attractive to those homeschool families.
Yeah, and they're very accommodating. I mean, they all have they have like different names. So it's like Student Success Center. A lot of them have changed it, so it's not it doesn't sound like negative, like the Disability Center,
Yeah.
So they kind of have changed things, and it's like the Student Success Center, because all students need help with tutoring and like scheduling and like figuring out like sometimes like how do I manage a schedule. So all of the universities and even community colleges all have some type of center to assist.
I think the best thing is to focus on what your learner wants, and then to find the programs that best serve that want. If they want to be a scientist, then they're going to go to, those elite science research universities. If they're interested in the arts, then, you want to send them to Design Institute. And then within those universities, be very rigorous in the questions during the admissions process. Your student should be interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing your student. So they know if that's the type of environment that they're going to be successful in.
Yeah. And a lot of students so maybe they are like so heavy into design, and they already have like a design. I'm not a design person, but they already, I like to paint though, but furniture, that's all.
There's art in you. I saw it come out in this presentation.
Maybe they already have like this design process, and they've been doing some type of designing work. So they might already have like portfolios, and a lot of times they have their transcript, and it has all these accolades and wonderful things that they've done and created. And they're going to businesses, and people are like hiring them, like, right out of high school, because it's like they have this vision and passion for that area. So, just creating that transcript, and it's so dynamic, and, seeing where it takes you. They have so many opportunities as a homeschooler.
How do we combine the multiple curriculums for a grade?
You started this type of a science curriculum, and then you're using these other things too as well. Okay, so just basing it on making sure they're covering what you feel needs to be covered and what your state requires you to cover, to get that credit for that biology class. So making sure they're having, labs or whatever they're needing. So you can kind of combine many, many curriculums. I mean, many homeschoolers use lots of curriculums, and not even curriculums. They're like going to different places, going to museums, going to co-ops. So you'll have that combined process.
The example is 2 different curriculums like IXL and Prodigy, using those together.
Okay, so I'm familiar with IXL and Prodigy Math. Okay, so let's say they're doing Algebra 1 in IXL and Prodigy Math. So you're going to kind of combine that grade, because maybe one is more supplemental, extra practice, and one's kind of more of the core curriculum. But you'll kind of see how your student is doing, or how your child is doing within that curriculum. And it doesn't specifically need to be named on the transcripts, right? You're not going to say the curriculum you used. For your state, you might need to do that. But it would just be Algebra 1 and, whatever that grade averaged out to be, according to your scale, your grading scale.
So these curriculums often come with a guide, some advice on how to grade, and you still are the ultimate decision maker of your grading policy. And it's okay and valid to say, no matter what IXL recommends, if I see this, I'm going to grade it this way.
Right.
So having that plan beforehand will make it clearer, but the different curriculums can be combined when you have a clear grading policy of your own.
Yes, definitely.
I feel so much better prepared to go through any admissions process. Your tips, I think, are helpful for any learner. I don't see any more questions in the chat. So Judy, I'd love to know if before we go, there's anything else you would like to say, any last nuggets or words of encouragement that you'd like to share.
So I think just starting the journey and continuing to follow those passions that your student has, your child has, just developing that and, thinking outside of the box. College isn't for everyone. There's so many opportunities, but just building that transcript of uniqueness for your learner and just watching all of those doors open and watching them blossom and grow. I think it's such a fun journey, just watching that happen. So enjoy it, because it's going to be gone like that. But I mean, it's just a wonderful journey. It is.
Judy, thank you so much. At the Outschool community team would love to continue to be part of that journey. So as you're hitting those milestones and you're getting closer and closer to graduation date, keep us up to date, post in our groups, send us a note, because we'd love to celebrate with you. And we're excited that we get to offer these types of opportunities for you here in community. I saw it in the chat. Yes, there will be a recording, and we will send you a message when those recordings are live. That's all we have for you today. I'm going to stick around for a few minutes in case anybody's left in the chat. But Judy, it's been so wonderful talking to you today. Thank you so much one more time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful sharing. Everyone have a wonderful journey. You can do this.
You can do it. You will do it.